In the unfolding drama of international trade and diplomacy, China has opted for a strategy of defiance rather than the conciliatory tactics employed by its North American neighbors Canada and Mexico in their dealings with President Donald Trump. Amid a backdrop of escalating tariffs imposed on Chinese imports, Beijing appears to be conserving its energy for what seems to be a protracted battle rather than engaging in a flurry of diplomatic flattery. According to analysis from Foreign Policy, the Trump administration has ramped up tariffs on Chinese goods significantly since taking office. On February 4, 2025, the administration imposed a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports, followed by an additional 10% increase shortly thereafter, bringing the average tariff rate for Chinese goods to a staggering 33%. This dramatic rise from approximately 3% in 2017 poses new challenges for Chinese leaders already grappling with a faltering economy. Despite the economic repercussions, experts suggest that China's leadership under President Xi Jinping appears reluctant to engage directly with Trump's unpredictable and often theatrical approach to diplomacy. President Xi cannot afford to lose face, remarked Rush Doshi, a senior fellow for Asia Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. The fear of appearing weak in front of both domestic and international audiences likely plays a crucial role in Beijing's decision-making process. Rather than seeking immediate relief through appeasement, Chinese officials are adopting a long-term perspective, aware that Trump's commitment to a trade war is unlikely to wane quickly. Indeed, the administration has cited the flow of fentanyl from China as a justification for the tariffs, despite China's assertions of cooperation in addressing the drug crisis. The U.S. is bent on using the fentanyl issue as a flimsy excuse to raise tariffs again on Chinese imports, stated Lin Jian, spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry. Despite the risks of this approach, China has showcased a diverse array of potential retaliatory measures. Earlier this year, Beijing imposed tariffs on U.S. energy imports and agricultural products while also launching antitrust investigations against U.S. companies like Google. This multifaceted response indicates a calculated readiness to engage in a trade war rather than back down. In stark contrast to the more diplomatic overtures from Canada and Mexico, which have successfully navigated temporary suspensions of tariffs through targeted engagement, China's strategy reflects a belief that long-term challenges require resilience rather than short-term diplomacy. Wendy Cutler, vice president at the Asia Society Policy Institute, pointed out that while engagement could have yielded a suspension of tariffs akin to those enjoyed by Canada and Mexico, the unrelenting nature of Trump's trade policies may lead China to view such negotiations as futile. As the situation progresses, it is clear that Beijing has no intention of retreating from this trade conflict. Lin Jian's assertive statement further solidifies this stance. If war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end. This declaration encapsulates China's commitment to standing firm against perceived aggression, even as they maintain a door open for future cooperation. Meanwhile, the possibility of renewed dialogue remains on the table. Trump has expressed a desire for a strong relationship with Xi, hinting at the potential for future communications. Nevertheless, any forthcoming engagement will likely be met with caution from Beijing, which will demand assurances to avoid any scenarios that could undermine Xi's standing. As international relations continue to evolve, the dynamics between the U.S. and China may define global trade and diplomacy for years to come. The long-term implications of China's defiance, and whether it can withstand the pressures of an ongoing trade war, remain to be seen, but one thing is clear: Beijing is preparing for a prolonged contest in the arena of global economics and diplomacy. Chinese President Xi Jinping has set forth a bold agenda for the People's Liberation Army (PLA) amidst ongoing internal and external challenges. As the annual two-sessions political meetings unfold in Beijing, Xi emphasizes a dual focus on combating corruption and advancing technological integration within the military. His directives reflect a commitment to strengthening the PLA's combat capabilities while ensuring the integrity of its leadership, particularly in light of a long-standing anti-corruption campaign that has already seen the downfall of numerous high-ranking officials. During a recent meeting with National People's Congress deputies from the PLA and the armed police, she underscored the necessity for a robust supervisory framework to root out corruption. We should give more importance to supervision, build a complete and effective supervision system, strengthen integrated supervision and joint audits, and investigate deeply into corruption, he stated, signaling that the fight against graft remains a top priority. This message aligns with the broader governmental initiative to deepen political rectification, which was notably highlighted in Premier Li Qiang's annual work report earlier this week, marking the first such emphasis in a decade within the defense section of the report. Historically, Xi's anti-corruption campaign has had a significant impact on the military, leading to the ousting of senior commanders, including 2 former defense ministers and numerous executives within China's defense industry. The campaign aims to enhance the PLA's effectiveness and reliability by eliminating corrupt practices that undermine its operational integrity. At the same time, she has called for a strategic embrace of technology to bolster military efficacy. He urged the military to pursue high-quality development and to better integrate civilian innovations with military needs. This call for technological advancement is seen as critical in an era defined by rapid change in global military dynamics. She highlighted the importance of modern management practices and the need to improve strategic oversight mechanisms to ensure that military advancements are sustainable and tested under real combat conditions. The context of these initiatives is crucial. The ongoing geopolitical tensions, particularly with the United States, have intensified as both nations navigate an increasingly competitive landscape in trade and technology. Premier Li's report acknowledged the challenges posed by external pressures, particularly the escalating tariff conflicts and restrictions on technology access, which have prompted China to double down on its self-reliance in high-tech sectors. Analysts suggest that the focus on military modernization and anti-corruption is part of a broader strategy to ensure that China can withstand external pressures and emerge as a formidable global power. As the PLA strives to enhance its combat readiness through technological innovation, the implications of Xi's directives extend beyond military effectiveness. The intertwining of anti-corruption measures with calls for technological advancement reflects a broader understanding that national security is tied not only to military strength but also to the integrity of its institutions. The successful execution of these twin tasks will be pivotal as China navigates its path forward in a rapidly evolving global landscape. Looking ahead, the interplay between military readiness and the fight against corruption will likely shape the PLA's trajectory in the coming years. The Chinese leadership's commitment to these priorities suggests a strategic approach aimed at fostering a robust and resilient military capable of addressing both internal challenges and external threats. As the world watches, the outcomes of these initiatives will not only impact China's military posture but may also redefine its standing on the global stage. As China grapples with a slowing economy and rising social discontent, the leadership's recent announcements during the National People's Congress (NPC) reveal a nation at a crossroads. Premier Li Qiang's declaration of a 5% GDP growth target for 2025 comes amid increasing external pressures and a domestic environment marked by economic malaise and citizen unrest. With the U.S. recently escalating tariffs on Chinese goods to 20%, Beijing's response has been a mix of defiance and concern, reflecting the complexities of navigating a challenging economic landscape. In his address to around 3,000 delegates on March 5, Premier Li underscored the urgency of revitalizing sluggish consumption in an economy that he warns is not robust enough for sustainable recovery. Achieving a level of growth is important for political reasons. One of those is social stability, noted Neil Thomas, a fellow at the Asia Society Policy Institute. This sentiment highlights the precarious balance that the Chinese government seeks to maintain amid growing public discontent, which has surged as citizens express frustrations over job prospects and economic fairness. Recent data from the China Dissent Monitor reveals a troubling trend. Protests increased by 21% in late 2024 compared to the previous year, with economic grievances fueling most of these actions. Citizens are increasingly vocal about their dissatisfaction, citing issues such as unpaid wages and housing disputes. Many feel that the system is rigged against them, exacerbating feelings of inequality and disillusionment. This prolonged economic downturn appears to be generating more economic hardship for Chinese people, which leads to more frequent protests, a spokesperson for the CDM stated. The economic backdrop against which these protests are unfolding includes a significant slump in the property market, which has weighed heavily on consumer spending and business confidence. Youth unemployment has reached alarming levels, with millions struggling to find work. In response, the government has announced stimulus measures, including a rise in the fiscal deficit target from 3% to 4% of GDP and the issuance of 300 billion yuan $41 billion in special bonds to stimulate consumer spending. However, experts remain skeptical about the effectiveness of these measures, citing a pervasive lack of consumer confidence. Additionally, the NPC has seen the emergence of a worrying trend of violence, with mass casualty attacks by individuals facing economic despair becoming more frequent. These revenge against society incidents, often stemming from personal grievances related to debt or low-paying jobs, signal a deepening social crisis. Experts argue that the tightening grip of the government under Xi Jinping has stifled avenues for peaceful dissent, leaving many citizens with few options but to resort to violence. The government's approach to these rising tensions has largely been to intensify surveillance and repression. A commentary in the Communist Party's mouthpiece People's Daily emphasized the need for vigilance and a robust response to societal unrest, condemning acts of violence as unforgivable. Yet some analysts argue that this strategy may only further alienate citizens and escalate tensions. Looking forward, the economic challenges facing China are compounded by an increasingly hostile international environment. As the U.S. continues to view China's economic rise as a threat, the Chinese leadership must navigate a delicate balance between asserting its economic ambitions and addressing the domestic unrest that threatens the stability of the regime. While Premier Li's optimistic rhetoric about the long-term trajectory of China's economy aims to reassure both domestic and international audiences, the realities on the ground present a more complex picture. As the year unfolds, all eyes will be on Beijing's ability to implement effective measures that not only stimulate economic growth but also address the underlying social discontent. The coming months will be critical in determining whether the Chinese government can quell unrest while simultaneously navigating the pressures of a global economic war. Setting the stage for potential shifts in both domestic policy and international relations. In recent weeks, tensions across Northeast Asia have intensified, driven by a series of political maneuvers, military exercises, and shifting public sentiments surrounding China and its relationships with neighboring countries. The latest developments highlight the precarious balance of power in the region, particularly concerning Taiwan, South Korea, and the Philippines, as well as China's ongoing strategic alliances. Taiwan's political landscape is currently marked by escalating recall campaigns aimed at Kuomintang KMT legislators. As of March 7, 2025, the Central Election Commission announced that 32 recall motions against KMT officials have progressed to the second stage, potentially shifting the power dynamics in the legislative yuan in favor of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party (DPP). The DPP currently holds 51 seats while the KMT has 54, necessitating a strategic approach to secure a simple majority. The outcome of these recall efforts could have significant implications for Taiwan's legislative agenda, particularly as the KMT's popularity wanes in the wake of controversial budget cuts that have disproportionately affected defense and foreign affairs. Amid these political developments, the People's Republic of China (PRC) has ramped up its military presence in the region, conducting live-fire exercises in the waters off Taiwan. This display of force, described as a coercive measure, follows similarly provocative military operations near Vietnam and Australia. Such actions appear designed not only to intimidate Taiwan but also to assert China's dominance in the South China Sea, complicating international shipping routes and raising concerns about regional security. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense has condemned these maneuvers as provocations that threaten stability. reflecting a broader pattern of escalating military activity by the PRC. In February alone, PLA aircraft conducted 348 incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone, a tactic that has become more frequent since the inauguration of President Xi Jinping. The PRC's hardline stance extends beyond Taiwan, as evidenced by a surge of anti-China sentiment in South Korea. President Yoon Suk-yeol's recent impeachment trial has brought allegations of Chinese espionage to the forefront of public discourse. Yoon's comments during the trial have galvanized political opposition and fueled protests against perceived PRC interference, leading even pro-PRC politicians like presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung to shift their positions. The growing anti-PRC sentiment indicates a significant shift in South Korea's political landscape, potentially impacting future electoral outcomes. In the Philippines, the government has taken decisive action against alleged Chinese espionage, arresting multiple PRC nationals for targeting sensitive military installations, including the presidential palace and various military bases. These arrests highlight the Philippines' ongoing struggle to counteract PRC influence and espionage, particularly as tensions in the South China Sea remain high. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has emphasized the need to combat PRC espionage, indicating that this issue will continue to be a priority for his administration. On the international front, the PRC is attempting to strengthen its strategic alliances, particularly with Russia, while simultaneously managing its image amid global criticism for its role in the Ukraine conflict. Recent meetings between PRC officials and their Russian counterparts reaffirmed their commitment to strategic cooperation, although the PRC has sought to project a facade of neutrality regarding the war. This balancing act demonstrates China's complex diplomatic approach as it navigates an increasingly polarized global landscape. Furthermore, the PRC's military budget continues to grow, with a proposed 7.2% increase for 2025, reflecting its ongoing commitment to enhancing military capabilities. This increase is part of a broader strategy to bolster national defense and assert China's influence regionally and globally. As these developments unfold, the geopolitical landscape in Northeast Asia remains fraught with tension. The outcomes of Taiwan's legislative battles, South Korea's political shifts, and the Philippines' counter-espionage efforts will be crucial in determining the balance of power in the region. Observers will be closely monitoring how China navigates its relationships with neighboring countries amidst these challenges, as the region grapples with the implications of a more assertive PRC and the responses of its neighbors. The coming months will be critical as the situation evolves, with potential ramifications for international relations and security in Northeast Asia. In a world increasingly defined by geopolitical tensions and uncertainty, China's recent foreign policy initiatives aim to present a stabilizing force amid global chaos. During a press conference on March 7, 2025, Foreign Minister Wang Yi articulated a vision of China's diplomacy that seeks to foster collaboration and promote a community with a shared future. This message comes against the backdrop of a volatile international landscape marked by conflicts such as the ongoing crisis in Ukraine and rising tensions in the South China Sea. Wang's remarks coincided with significant diplomatic events, including a special council on defense held by European Union leaders in Brussels, which was prompted by shifting U.S. policies regarding the Ukraine situation. "We will unswervingly stand on the right side of history and on the side of human progress, and will stabilize an uncertain world with China's certainty," Wang asserted, encapsulating the core message of China's current diplomatic direction. The foreign minister outlined China's commitment to constructive engagement with major global players, emphasizing the importance of multilateralism over unilateralism. He noted that China's proactive approach to diplomacy, driven by President Xi Jinping's leadership, has led to positive shifts in international relations. Noteworthy events from the past year, such as the conference celebrating the 70th anniversary of the 5 Principles of Peaceful Coexistence and the Beijing Summit for China-Africa Cooperation, serve as exemplars of this strategy. However, the global environment is fraught with challenges, as highlighted by Wang. The rise of protectionism and hegemony poses significant risks, complicating efforts to establish a stable and equitable global governance framework. Wang pointed out that the absence of a strong consensus on issues like climate change and trade exacerbates these challenges, calling for a collective response from the international community. China's stance on these matters reflects its broader ambition to play a pivotal role in shaping a fair and inclusive world order. Wang articulated that despite external pressures, the unity of the Chinese people remains unshaken. Extreme pressure, threats, and blackmail cannot shake the unity of 1.4 billion Chinese people, nor can they stop the historical pace of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, he declared. Wang's insights come at a critical juncture, with nations grappling with the implications of economic downturns and external pressures. He highlighted that China's modernization efforts, particularly the Belt and Road Initiative, are designed to create shared opportunities and foster global development. If all countries choose to work together to build a community with a shared future for humanity, it will bring the certainty of brighter days ahead for all. Wang concluded. As China continues to position itself as a stabilizing force in international affairs, the outcomes of its diplomatic engagements will be closely monitored. The effectiveness of its strategies in addressing global challenges, ranging from economic stability to climate action, will likely define its role on the world stage in the years to come. Moving forward, the international community's responses to China's initiatives will be crucial in determining whether a collaborative framework can be established or if geopolitical tensions will continue to escalate.